What is up guys, my name is Ignas, welcome back to the channel. Last week we made a dividend comparison for 3 largest names from the household and personal products industry. Estee Lauder got a slight lead there. And now I would like to continue on this list. So for today's dividend comparison I've picked 3 more names from the same industry. The first one will be Kimberly Clark, ticker symbol KMB. In 1 year it is down for 5.61%. But zooming out to 5 years, there has been some growth, plus 9.51%. This will be the largest pick for today with a market cap of $45 billion US, and the stock is now trading at a dividend yield of 3.47%. Now the second stock for today's comparison is Church Dwight, ticker symbol CHD. In 1 year, the stock went down for 19.13%. Though zooming out to 5 years, it is quite up there, plus 68.66%. This one is a smaller company with a market cap of $20 billion, and we now have it trading at a dividend yield of 1.27%. And for the third stock in today's comparison is Clorox, ticker symbol CLX. In 1 year, the stock is also down for 19.76%, though zooming out to 5 years it is flat, minus 0.56%. This will be the smallest company for today's comparison, market cap $17.5 billion. And this one is trading at a dividend yield of 3.33%. So these are the 3 companies for today's dividend comparison, and to properly track that we'll use Google Sheets. So I've prepared this table with the ticker symbols already in, and to perform a dividend comparison we'll use 5 different metrics. Dividend yield, dividend payout ratio, years of consecutive dividend increases, 5-year compound annual dividend growth rate, and the current dividend yield compared to its 5-year average. We'll check these metrics under each ticker symbol, add them into the table and compare them in between. The stock with the best metric will get a point for it, then we'll sum the points up, and in the end the name with the most points will be considered the winner of this dividend comparison. I hope that the rules were clear, and an early thumbs up would be very much appreciated, and with that out of the way, let's start. So the first metric we are comparing is the dividend yield. It is calculated by taking the annual dividend per share and dividing it by the share price. Kimberly Clark is currently paying an annual dividend of $4.64, so at a share price of $133.80, we here have a dividend yield of 3.47%. Now Church Dwight, their annual dividend is at $1.05, so at a price of $82.75 per share, we have a dividend yield of 1.27%. And lastly Clorox, the dividend is at $4.72, so with a price of $141.60, this is here a dividend yield of 3.44%. The second metric we are looking into is the dividend payout ratio. The percentage here shows what part of company's earnings are being paid back to investors as dividends. So for KMB, the dividend payout ratio is at 64.74%, meaning that almost 2/3 of company's earnings are being used to pay dividends. Now CHD, with a dividend payout ratio of 31.28%, so just under 1/3 of earnings are used for dividends. And then for Clorox, the payout ratio is 90.17%, so almost all of company's earnings are used to pay dividends. Metric number 3 is the number of years with consecutive dividend increases. So for how many years in a row the company has been increasing dividends for at least 1 quarter every year. With Kimberly Clark, they have been increasing dividends consistently for the last 51 years. Switching to Church Dwight, and they have been increasing dividends for 27 years straight, and then Clorox, with 36 years of consecutive increases in dividends. Metric number 4 is the compound annual dividend growth rate. For the comparison, we'll use the 5-year average, including the next year's estimate. So for KMB, the compound annual dividend growth rate is at 2.41%. Now CHD, and they have a 5-year dividend growth rate of 2.9%, and then CLX, with an annual dividend growth rate of 2.66%. The last metric is the dividend yield compared to its 5-year average. And for that we are using my dividend investing watchlist on Google Sheets. So we are in the tab for Kimberly Clark. Here is its dividend yield history for each quarter of the last 5 years. And on average the stock was trading at a dividend yield of 3.28%. So the best time to get into the stock was back in 2018 with a dividend yield of 3.82%. higher than average for 16.38%, and worst part was in the second half of 2020, where the yield was at 2.75%, below average for 16.22%. Though taking the stock right now at a dividend yield of 3.46%, that is a bit higher than the average, plus 5.41%. So this is here that number that we will be comparing. Now Church Dwight, we have its dividend yield history for each quarter of the last 5 years, and on average this stock was trading at a dividend yield of 2.26%. So the best time to get into the stock was back in 2018, with a dividend yield of 1.73%, higher than average for 47.82%, and worst time was in 2020 at exactly 1%, below average for 20.33%. Now currently taking the stock with a dividend yield of 1.26%, we are pretty much at the average plus 0.38%. And third one is Clorox. We have its dividend yield history for each quarter of the last 5 years, and on average this one was trading at a dividend yield of 2.58%. So the worst time to get into the stock was back in 2020, where the dividend yield was 1.86%, under average for 27.85%, though if we would be taking the stock right now at a dividend yield of 3.31%, that is at the highest it has been in the last 5 years, higher than average for 28.39%. So now we do have the numbers for our dividend comparison. If you would be interested in doing a similar analysis on another dividend paying stock yourself, you are able to access this watchlist by following the first link at the top of the description. Otherwise, feel free to add a ticker or symbol in a comment below, and I'll consider adding that into the watchlist myself. Maybe you could share some interesting opportunity available in the market that I'm still missing. So we are back with our table, the numbers are in, and now we can start assigning points. First one goes to Kimberly Clark with the largest dividend yield of 3.47%, a point to Church Dwight with the lowest payout ratio of 31.28%, another for Kimberly Clark with 51 years of consecutive dividend increases. CHD gets a point for the largest 5-year compound annual dividend growth rate at 2.9%, and for the last metric a point goes to Clorox, where its current dividend yield is 28.39% higher than its 5-year average. So the points have been assigned and now we calculate results. KMB got 2 points, CHD 2 and CLX 1. So currently we have a tie between Kimberly Clark and Church Dwight. This means that for the moment we should remove Clorox from the equation and then reassign that point elsewhere. So KMB gets another point where its dividend yield is 5.41% higher than its 5-year average. Now that the results have been recalculated, with a sum of 3 points Kimberly Clark is considered the winner of this dividend comparison. So we have compared those 3 names from the consumer staples sector, and now KMB got our attention. That could be an interesting addition to our dividend portfolio for more staples exposure. What do you think, should we be buying into Kimberly Clark right now? Share your stance on the stock in a comment below. Also don't forget to support the channel and leave a thumbs up under the video. Last week I have compared 3 names from the same market sector, so if you would be interested in that or any other analysis I'm doing, then click on a video that is currently on the screen. And that was it from my side, thank you for watching and I will be seeing y'all in the next one.